Hi, welcome back. In this video, we will be going over tax credits. We are going to skip lines 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18 for right now. These lines will be discussed in the next video. A tax credit is a tax incentive that allows certain taxpayers to subtract the amount of the credit from the total they owe. Most credits are non-refundable tax credits, meaning that they can only be used to the point at which no more taxes are owed. However, some tax credits are refundable tax credits. If the credit exceeds the amount of taxes owed, the excess is given to the taxpayer. The first credit we will be looking at is on Form 1040, line 19. This is the non-refundable part of the child tax credit or credit for other dependents from Schedule 8812. A child tax credit of $3,600 per qualifying child under age 6 and $3,000 per qualifying child on age 6 through 17 is allowed. There are a few conditions for this credit. The first condition is age. The child must have been 17 or younger on December 31st. Next is citizenship. The child must be a United States citizen, a United States national, or a resident alien. Dependent. The child must be claimed as a dependent on their tax return. Relationship. The child must be related to the taxpayer in one of the following ways: either a son, a daughter, stepson, brother, sister, stepbrother, stepsister, grandchild, niece, or nephew. This includes any legally adopted child, any child lawfully placed with them in preparation for adoption, and any foster child lawfully placed in their care. Residency. The child must have lived with the taxpayer for more than half of the year. Temporary absences for special circumstances are generally acceptable, and special rules may apply if they are divorced or for certain other circumstances. For more details, see the instructions for Schedule 8812. Support. The child must not have provided more than half of their own financial support for the year. Emily has 2 children who she provided support for, and they are aged 7 and 14. Based on the information just learned, her children qualify for the credit. The amount entered on line 19 comes from Schedule 8812. So we will need to complete this schedule. Line 1 of Schedule 8812 asks for the amount from line 11 of Form 1040. Lines 2A, 2B, and 2C ask for income from Puerto Rico that was excluded. The amounts from line 45 and 50 of Form 2555 and the amount from line 15 of Form 4563. Line 3 asks to add lines 1 and 2D. This equals $60,163 for Emily. On lines 4A through 4C, you will answer information regarding the taxpayer's dependents. You can take a moment to fill out 4A through 4C on your own using Emily's information. On line 4A, we will enter her total children. We see that she has 2 total children, so we will enter 2 on line 4A. Line 4B is 0 because she had no children under the age of 6. And line 5C is 2 because she had 2 children over the age of 6. If line 4A is more than 0, then the line 5 worksheet must be completed. Going to the worksheet, line 1 is 0 because the amount on line 4B is 0. She has no dependents under the age of 6. The amount on line 2 is $6,000 because she has dependents over the age of 6 who qualify for the child tax credit. The amount on line 3 is lines 1 and 2 added up, which equals $6,000. On line 4, we multiply the amount on line 4A of Schedule 8812 by 2,000. Emily has 2 on line 4A, so this equals 4,000. On line 5, we will subtract line 4 from line 3, which equals 2,000. On line 6, you will enter the amount corresponding to the filing status of the taxpayer. We will enter $4,375 because Emily files as head of household. On line 7, the smaller of line 5 or line 6 is entered. The smaller of the two is line 5 here, which is 2,000. On line 8, we will enter $112,500, which corresponds to Emily's filing status of head of household. On line 9, line 8 is subtracted from Schedule 8812, line 3, which was $60,163. This will be a negative number, and so we will enter 0 on line 9. On line 10, we multiply line 9 by 5%, so that will be 0 as well. On line 11, we will enter the smaller of line 7 or line 10, which would be 0 from line 10 here. On line 12, line 11 is then subtracted from line 3, equaling 6,000, and this amount is entered on line 5 of Schedule 8812. So we go back to Schedule 8812, enter the amount of 6,000 on line 5, and then we will move on to line 6. Line 6 is the number of other dependents, including any qualifying children who are not under the age of 18 or who do not have the required Social Security number. For Emily, it's 0 in this case. On line 7, we multiply line 6 by 500. Line 6 was 0, so line 7 is 0. On line 8, lines 5 and 7 are added, equaling $6,000. On line 9, $200,000 is entered for the head of household filing status. On line 10, line 9 is subtracted by line 3. This equals less than 0, so we enter 0 here. On line 11, line 10 is multiplied by 5%, which is 0 here because line 10 was 0. On line 12, line 11, which is 0, is subtracted from line 8, which is 6,000, and that equals 6,000. Then you will check any boxes that apply on line 13. We will check the first box, which applies to Emily, and we will go on to Part 1B. We are going to complete Part 1B. Emily received $2,000 of advanced child tax credits in 2021. And so we will subtract the amount of her tax credit, which is $6,000, by $2,000. We end up with the amount of $4,000, which is added to line 28 of Form 1040. The amount of 0 is added to line 19. Going back to Form 1040, the amount on line 20 is from Schedule 3, line 8. We will now go to Schedule 3 to learn how to fill it out. The first part of Schedule 3 is for non-refundable credits. Non-refundable credits can only be used to the point at which no more taxes are owed. Let's review what each line is used to enter. Line 1 is for the foreign tax credit. The foreign tax credit is for income taxes paid to a foreign government as a result of foreign income tax withholding. Line 2 is the credit for child and dependent care expenses, which is derived from Form 2441. This credit is refundable if the taxpayer lived in the United States for more than half the year. If they did not live in the United States for more than half the year, the credit is non-refundable and the amount is entered on Schedule 3, Line 2. The key requirement for this tax credit is that the care was provided to children or dependents so that the taxpayer could work or look for work. Line 3 is for education credits, which are derived from Form 8863. There are two education credits, the American Opportunity Credit and the Lifetime Learning Credit. The American Opportunity Credit helps pay for expenses during a student's first 4 years of college and can reduce $2,500 per student off the tax bill. The Lifetime Learning Credit can be used for undergraduate, graduate, and professional degree courses for anyone and offers a maximum annual amount of $2,000 of savings. Line 4 is for the Retirement Savings Contribution Credit. This is derived from Form 8880. The Retirement Savings Contribution Credit is a tax break designed to reward lower wage earners who contribute to retirement accounts. Line 5 is for residential energy credits, which are derived from Form 5695. If energy-efficient products or renewable energy systems are purchased and installed in a taxpayer's home, the taxpayer may be eligible for federal tax credits available for residential properties. Line 6 is for other non-refundable credits, including the General Business Credit, the Adoption Credit, and the credit for elderly and disabled. Line 7 is the total for other non-refundable credits. Line 8 is an add line, and the total is entered on line 20 of Form 1040. For line 2 of Schedule 3, which is for the credit for child and dependent care expenses, Emily had $800 of summer camp expenses for her children while she worked on her summer business. She will need to fill out Form 2441 in order to take advantage of the Child and Dependent Care Credit. Following along Form 2441, we will enter the care provider's information on line 1. On line 2, we will enter the amounts that were spent for each dependent. On line 3, we will enter the total of the child's care expenses. On line 4, earned income is entered. Line 5 is for a spouse's income. If there is no spouse, such as in Emily's case, you just enter the earned income again. Line 6 is the smallest of line 3, 4, or 5. Line 7 is for the amount on line 11 of Form 1040, which is adjusted gross income. Line 8 multiplies the amount on line 6 by 50%, or 0.5. 400 is the total amount of credit that Emily can take for the dependent care expenses. The amount she can deduct is refundable because she resides in the U.S., and this amount will be added to Schedule 3 as a refundable credit later on in this video. For line 3, Emily had expenses of $2,400 from a course that she took at a local college. For the non-refundable Lifetime Learning Credit, 20% of higher education expenses qualify for the credit with a maximum of $2,000. Emily is able to deduct 20% of her college expenses by taking the non-refundable Lifetime Learning Credit. 20% is $480, and this is entered on line 3 of Schedule 3. For line 5, a common reason to need to fill out line 5 would be if a taxpayer installed solar panels. Form 5695, which is a long form, needs to be completed, And so we will just go through some basics of the form here. On line 1, you would enter qualified solar electric property costs. Line 2, you would enter qualified solar water heating property costs. On line 3, qualified small wind energy property costs are entered. Line 4 is for qualified geothermal heat pump property costs. Line 5 is for qualified biomass fuel property costs. Line 6A is to add lines 1 through 5. Line 6B is to multiply line 6A by 26%, 0.26. Line 7A through 10 asks for information about fuel cell property and if it was installed in the US. Line 12 is for credit carry forward from 2020. Line 13 is to add lines 6B, 11, and 12 together. Line 14 asks to complete the Residential Energy Efficient Property Credit Limit worksheet. The worksheet is very straightforward and questions will be asked relating to line items of other forms. You will then continue along lines 14 to 30, answering the questions related to the property and filling in the information. Emily does not have any more credits that she can take from the first part of Schedule 3. And so going back to Form 1040, we are going to skip lines 22 to 26 and go to line 27, which is for the Earned Income Credit. The Federal Earned Income Tax Credit, or Earned Income Credit, is a refundable tax credit for low to moderate income working individuals and couples, particularly those with children. For a person or couple to claim one or more persons as their qualifying child or children, the relationship, age, and shared residency requirements must be met, as well as the joint return test. The details of claiming the Earned Income Credit are discussed in more detail in the reading assignment. If a taxpayer has a qualifying child, they will attach Schedule EIC. The instructions for Form 1040 details who can take the credit, and the IRS can calculate the amount of credit for the taxpayer. For head of household filers, the credit can be taken if they have an adjusted gross income of under $49,399. Emily's adjusted gross income is above the AGI limit, and so she cannot take the Earned Income Credit. Line 28 is for the Refundable Child Tax Credit or Additional Child Tax Credit from Schedule 8812, which we already went over. Looking at Form 8812, we see that she had $4,000 of refundable child tax credit, which is entered here. Line 29 is for the American Opportunity Credit from Form 8863, Education Credits. The maximum total credit is $2,500 off the cost of tuition, fees, and course materials paid during the taxable year. If the student brings the amount of tax due to zero and does not fully use the credit of $2,500, the student may take 40% of any remaining portion as a refundable credit up to $1,000. Emily did have college tuition expenses, though she cannot take the American Opportunity Credit because it is limited to the student's first 4 years of higher education, and so therefore she took the non-refundable Lifetime Learning Credit. Line 30 is for the Recovery Rebate Credit. This credit has been added for taxpayers who did not get their stimulus payment or should have received a larger payment. The maximum credit is $1,400, or $2,800 if married filing jointly, plus $500 for each qualifying child, and is based on 2021 tax year information. There were 3 economic impact payments, though only the third was issued in 2021, so a taxpayer can only take a credit for the third payment. To fill out this portion, you will use the Recovery Rebate Credit Worksheet in the instructions for Form 1040. Line 31 is the amount from Schedule 3, line 15. Going back to Schedule 3, Part 1, we will continue from line 9. And we will move on to Part 2. We will go over what each line item is here. Some lines are more common than others. Line 9 is for the premium tax credit, which is a credit that helps eligible individuals and families cover the premiums for their health insurance purchased through the health insurance marketplace. Line 10 is the amount paid with request for extension to file. Line 11 is for the excess Social Security and Tier 1 RRTA tax withheld. The most common case of a taxpayer having excess Social Security withheld is if they switch jobs mid-year. Line 12 is for the credit for federal tax on fuels. This is for people who have a non-taxable use of certain fuels. Line 13A to Z is for other payments or refundable credits, such as qualified sick and family leave credits taken before April 1st, 2021, and the health coverage tax credit from Form 8885. On line 13G, the credit for child independent care expenses from Form 2441, line 10, which we filled out earlier in this video, are entered. The amount of Emily's refundable child and dependent care credits was $400. Line 14 is to add up the amounts on line 13. Line 15 is the total amounts on line 9 through 12 and 14. This amount of $400 is then entered on line 31 of Form 1040. We will go to Form 1040 and continue with line 32 to determine Emily's total other payments and refundable credits. Adding up lines 27A and 28 through 31, we get $4,400, which is her total other payments and refundable credits. That's it for this video. Stay tuned for the next video where we will go over the remaining lines of Form 1040.